Hey guys, it's Bryce, or better known as Kami, here to bring you a Paladins beginner guide. Now I'm assuming everybody watching this video probably has a wide range of knowledge of this game Paladins, being maybe you know a lot about this game, maybe even more than me, an intermediate, just a little bit, or maybe someone that's just coming right into the game, have no idea where to start off, and is just looking for something to help them out on their journey. And I'm here to do that, so I'm hoping by the end of this, everybody maybe learn something new, And if you didn't, you're a big fat doo-doo head. So without further ado, let's dive in. Now, before we jump into our first game, I wanted to give you a general overview of Paladins. That's currently in closed beta, so any information that I give could be incorrect or altered somewhere down the road. I'm trying to mainly go over the fundamentals, so hopefully nothing changes too drastically. Of course, if something does change, I'll be sure to at least show the updates in the description below. Now let's get into it. There are currently 3 different game modes you can play. There is Siege, Casual, and Challenge Match. Hold on, I lied. There's actually 5 different modes. There's Practice, which allows you to play against bots by yourself, and Co-op to play against bots with maybe your friends or other people. I'm mainly just going to cover the 3 ways you can play online without any bots. 9 actual people. Now, if someone DCs and doesn't reconnect, a bot will take their position, but hopefully that never happens to you. I'll go over Siege first, since Challenge Match is essentially the same thing, only played with 2 teams that consist of a 5-man party. Kind of like a scrimmage instead of going into a pub and playing with 4 other random people. I'll also be going over Siege first, since Casual will be very easy to grasp once you fully understand Siege. The format is 2 teams, both containing 5 players. Now there are currently 2 maps, Enchanted Forest and Temple Ruins. They do plan on adding at least 4 new maps in the future. You can find this on the Wikipedia page, which will be a link in the description. Now your goal is to lead your team to destroy the enemy's vault, or base, whatever. But alas, there are these damned gates blocking your path to get there. 2 to be exact. I know what you're thinking. Do a 5-man head stack to get over these gates, and ninja in and chip away at their vault. Well, I can say from personal experience this does not work. Not to mention the turrets that are mounted outside of every gate. They're not too friendly. What does work is summoning your own personal siege tank to come blast down those walls while you help. This is done by capturing points that spawn. Now there are 3 different locations these capture points can spawn, and they're chosen at random. These spots were usually referred to as left, middle, and right. I know. Stay with me here. It's hard to follow. They've also added names for each location. But let's just focus on the fundamentals right now, because to be honest, I don't even remember them. The only thing you can be certain is it will not be the same location it was previously. Once a spot is chosen, a marker will appear on your screen and minimap. Standing on these capture zones will start adding points towards, the capture zone. The more teammates on it, the faster it will go. Keep in mind that if an enemy steps onto the capture zone while you and or your team is trying to capture the zone, you will stop accumulating the capture points until you eliminate all enemies on the capture zone. Once the points hits 100, boom, you got yourself a siege engine. You then escort this siege engine to one of the gates, the enemy's gates I'd hope, or vault, and make sure any of those pesky enemies stay away from it. Once it arrives to the destination, it will stop and begin firing at that gate or vault. Now, you can also fire your weapon into the gate or vault to help damage it. To be honest, the damage from the tank pales in comparison to players' damage. The only thing you need to remember though is that you cannot damage the gate or vault unless the tank is first attacking it. When a tank destroys a wall, it will automatically self-destruct and a countdown will start for a new point to spawn. This whole self-destruct thing was implemented so if a team gets an early lead, they couldn't just steamroll the enemies without giving them a chance. Now, what if an enemy captures the tank before you do? What do you do? Well, obviously your goal is to destroy that enemy tank before it gets to one of your gates or vault and destroys it. You do so by unloading on that sucker. Abilities, auto attack, anything to do damage to it. On a side note, if a vault or gate gets below 50% health and the tank is destroyed before finishing the job, the vault or gate it was attacking will regen back up to 50% life. The rest is rinse and repeat, but balancing when to capture points, attack gates, kill enemies, retreat, etc. requires a lot of teamwork and communication. Now you may be asking yourself, how do I communicate with my teammates? Sadly, there is no built-in voice chat to use your mic, but there are quick emotes you can navigate using what they call a VGS system. It's activated by hitting the default button bound to V. A menu will pop up with emotes, and these emotes are tied to another hotkey. So for example, if you wanted to tell your team to attack, it would be done so by pressing the V button to access the menu, the A button, which would be linked to an attack submenu, and lastly A to yell something like, "Attack!" Now does this sound a little complicated? I personally think so. There's a lot of menus to navigate through, but hey, at least they give you something, right? To be honest, I barely use it because I prefer to have people get into a voice chat program. But if you don't have anybody, then this is your only option. Or you can come play with me! Oh yeah, you can also type. Hit the enter button, type some words, hit enter again. It works. By the way, quick shout outs to Timmy from data mining all of the Paladins voices, like, the 2 voices you just heard. You can find the Reddit post link in the description below. He's a pretty awesome dude. Now, I mentioned before that I would go over the 2 other modes, being casual and challenge match. Like mentioned, challenge match has identical gameplay to Siege, but the only difference is it can only be done with a full party of 5. Everybody wants to live how they wanna live. Once in the challenge match menu, you can either create a match and wait to be challenged, or to see if there's any other teams already waiting to be challenged. It's kind of a bummer really, since you can't actually play games while waiting. But there is an actual official Discord server. Discord is voice communication software, so you can find opponents while playing some games in, Siege or casual mode to warm up. I personally prefer this method. By the way, if you're interested in the link to the Discord server, it will be in where? That's right, the description. Woo! Lastly, we need to discuss the casual mode. Now, casual mode is split up into 2 different game types, Siege Tank and Capture Mode. In Siege Tank mode, there are no capture points, and a random team is selected to have a Siege Tank spawn at one of the capture points, that you would normally capture. But there's no capture points. I want to make sure I stress this. And you either are attacking or escorting the tank. The primary difference is when a gate is destroyed, the Siege Tank will keep on trucking through until it is destroyed. The other casual mode is Capture Mode. This means no Siege Tank, and the first team to capture 5 points wins the game. I personally am a fan of these. Well, I don't mind the capture point only mode. The problem is, though, when you choose casual mode, it randomly decides which one it wants to give you. And I always get the Siege Tank one, and I'm definitely not a fan of that. So let me be honest with you. Through the process of making this guide, I realized that the amount of content I wanted to cover in one video was too much. So I'm going to cover 2 more topics, and then you can be on your merry way. These 2 topics being basic UI and brief champion overview. Woohoo! The remaining topics like leveling in game, your account, champion mastery, crafting decks, explaining cards and how to acquire them, what I may eat for dinner tonight, etc. will all be covered in the second part of my guide. So, let's jump into the basic UI. There will be 3 different pictures shown, and although the UI will look very similar in all these 3 pictures, they represent 3 main points your UI will alter slightly. Now these 3 main points are waiting for a capture point to spawn, capturing a point, and after a tank is spawned. This first one here is me waiting for a capture point to spawn. First, let's cover the part of the UI that never changes. Up in the top right is your minimap. It shows locations of capture points, siege tanks, allies, and you. On the bottom right, you'll see cards. You get a new one for every level, and your level is shown right here. There's also a health and damage percentage, which is decided on which card you choose for every level. Of course, you have no idea what I'm talking about, because all of this information will be covered in the second part. So let's just move on. The bottom left has your HP and skills. The default binding for these skills are Q, E, F, and left shift. That's for your mount. What your abilities do depend on your character and will be explained during the champion overview. Right above your health is the chat box to read messages said by typing or the VGS system. The top left is your allies and their HP. Right here at the very top middle section of your screen shows your teams and enemies gate and vault HP. yours being the blue ones and the enemies being the red ones. The outermost icons are the first gates, followed by the second gate, and then the vault, and that's the circle. When they are damaged, the color will disappear on the icon to display its remaining HP. So half HP would be a half colored circle or gate, whatever. In between is the match duration, which by the way I'd say averages around about 12 minutes. Lastly, we have a section that changes depending on the 3 modes. Here it shows the time remaining for a capture point to spawn. Now here is what it looks like when you're capturing a point. Again, you're the blue, the enemy is a red. Seems like a reoccurring theme, I don't know, not a doctor. The bars will fill and the numbers will raise as you capture more of the point. Here shows how many people are capturing the point. Now like mentioned earlier, the more people on it, the faster it will go. But the cap speed is 3 people, so any more is somewhat pointless in terms of capturing speed. This last picture is a siege tank that's already spawned. Here is a siege tank's current life, and as you can see, it's attacking the enemy's first gate. Here shows the gate's current HP. It's about to die. And here you can see I'm extremely cool. That pretty much sums up how cool I am and, the UI in general. So let's move on to the champion overview. Alright, so there are currently 9 playable champions in this game of Paladins. They do planning adding on more in the future, but we'll go over the 9 right now. On every page, you'll see here, we're starting off with Barrack. They all have 3 abilities. Now again, they're bound to Q, E, and F, and if you look on here on the prompt, that they go in order. So the barricade would be bound to Q, turret would be bound to E, and rocket boots would be bound to F. And of course, you have the left shift button bound to mounting. Doesn't show it on these pages, just because it's the same for every character. So let's start with us some Barrack, why don't we? His auto attack is called a rifle, but it doesn't shoot as fast as a rifle you may think. It's a little bit slower, so you may have to lead your opponents depending on distance. So the Q ability Barricade drops a barricade, well, that seems redundant, that provides cover. It's kind of like a hologram. Enemies and allies can walk through it, but it blocks all projectiles. Next you have the turret, which, as you guessed, drops a turret. So you press the E button, if you hold it down, you'll kind of see an idea. It'll have like a hologram of where you're going to place it. Let go, it places it. It takes a few seconds for it to actually fully start up, but after that it will auto attack any enemy nearby that is in line of sight. And lastly we have his F ability, which is Rocket Boots. And just as a heads up, all champions' F abilities will remove all debuffs on use. So Rocket Boots, what do? They make your ass fly. Well, not in the air, but on the ground. You glide, I don't know, like a graceful unicorn prancing through the meadows. It just makes you get out of situations that are hairy. Except for his beard. That shit follows him everywhere. Next we have Cassie, and the bird that follows her everywhere. Now her auto attack is a bow. So just like with Barrack, you'll have to lead your opponents. A lot more actually. She's probably the hardest to just hit in general, right next to Pip. Her Q ability is Blast Shot. Now that pretty much fires a bow like it would with your auto attack, but it's an explosive projectile that knocks enemies back, mainly up from my experience. So you don't have to aim that one as well at the target, you can aim it at their feet. The E ability is Scout, which just sends that damn bird into the sky for 6 seconds, revealing enemies and increasing your damage by 15%. It essentially gives you wall hacks during those 6 seconds. And just as a heads up, when you fire at any time, even if the team doesn't have a Cassie, you will become visible through the wall for a split second. So if you're trying to hide, don't fire. Lastly, we have the F ability, Dodge Roll. Not as cool as Rocket Boots in my opinion, but you quickly roll in the direction you are moving. So even if you're facing forward, if you hold back and you press the F button, you will roll backwards. And of course, like mentioned earlier, and I won't say this every time, removes all debuffs on use. Next we have Fernando. He's actually considered one of the tanks of the cast, I guess. Him and Buck, but this guy is a lot more as a dedicated tank. His auto attack is a flamethrower, which is very short range, so if you want to be hitting someone, get in their face. The Q ability is Fireball. Now this is your long range ability. You press Q for Fireball, shoots out a fireball. Pretty slow moving, to be honest, and does damage in an AoE. Anything it hits, it's a pretty big fireball, as you can see. The E ability will spawn a shield, a pretty freaking big shield in my opinion, that will block 2500 damage. Now Fernando cannot attack while having this shield up, but it's great for blocking capture points, having your teammates stand behind it, block any sort of incoming damage. The last ability, Charge, or bound to F, dashes forward at great speed. Now, I mean, it does it pretty quickly, but the distance it travels is pretty short. Next is Buck, who's the other tank of the champion cast. His auto attack is a shotgun, which requires you to get very close. To be honest, to hit with all of your pellets, you need to be on top of them, which explains why Buck likes to fuck. Now his Q ability is Cataclysm, which deploys a rock wall that blocks movement. This can be used at bottleneck situations. Let's say you're trying to escape after your siege tank has been destroyed and you're trying to destroy their wall. You drop the wall down, let your teammates mount up or escape in any means. Now this wall does have HP and it also blocks projectiles. So if you see an enemy wall come up from Buck, either go around it or attack the crap out of it. His E ability is Recovery. It will heal for 650 health over 4 seconds. So keep in mind, if you're low on health, you wait for the last second, you spam the crap out of E, it's not going to instantly make everything alright. I'd say use it when you're around half health. Yeah. His F ability is Heroic Leap. Buck leaps an incredible height and distance. That's not an understatement. This dude frickin' flies. Now if you jump before you hit Heroic Leap, you'll also get a little bit more oomph to it, you know? Maybe get up in their face, because that's what Buck does. Make them a disgrace. I don't know where I was going with that, I apologize. But anyway, it's good to get behind enemy lines and a great retreat tool. Use it wisely. Next, we've got the Green Mean Machine Grok. This guy is the only really considered support character because of his Q ability, but his left click auto attack does a lightning gun or a lightning staff. It's very reminiscent of the lightning gun in Quake, is how I kind of compare it to. Which I'm assuming you gathered because I called it a lightning gun before I even called it the correct lightning staff. Moving on, his Q ability drops a healing totem. Now it drops it at his feet and it heals, a pretty good range. I don't know, you could fit 5 people, circumference, radius. I don't know, I failed geography, don't yell at me. His E ability is Chain Lightning. Weapon attacks chain to nearby enemies for 35% damage for 5 seconds. So it pretty much makes it so as you press the E button for the next 5 seconds, your auto attack will chain nearby targets. Pretty simple. His F ability is Ghost Walk. You become untargetable and gain 40% movement speed for 2 seconds. You also become a spooky ghost and everyone runs away in fear. No, okay, that doesn't happen. It happens to me because ghosts are terrifying, but you pretty much become a ghost and you get a little bit of movement speed that allows you to get away. And next we have the Bitch Witch Eevee, who has a broom that she occasionally flies on. Her auto attack is an ice staff. It fires pretty slow, but it also has slight AoE damage. Her Q ability is Illusion. Creates an illusion that deals 20% of your damage for 6 seconds. I always lose track of the real Eevee, but you'll notice how fast she goes down. If she drops like a sack of rocks, it's a clone. If not, it's the real one, and run for your life. Her E ability, Blink, teleports forward a short distance. Now this is the only change. This removes all debuffs on use. I completely forgot about that, to be honest. So her F ability, Soar, does not remove all debuffs, her E does. But her F ability, Soar, you hop on your staff and take flight. Literally, this is the only character that can really get Y-axis mobility. So when you press F, you soar. If you look straight up, you fly up in the air. Currently, she can get up into areas that aren't allowed. I'm going into a tangent that I feel like Hi-Rez needs to change, but overall, Hi-Rez, good job, man. Feels good. Next, we've got my main man, Pip. He is, yes, my favorite character, because he's very reminiscent of a Demo Man, which was my favorite character in TF2. His auto attack is just like a Demo Man. Yeah, it fires kind of like a, it's called a potion launcher, but it kind of, you gotta lob it, you gotta angle it. Not only do you have to lead an opponent, but you also have to aim up in the air, depending on the distance, how far you are away from him. Angles and stuff, but quit pestering me. I failed geography. His Q ability is Explosive Flask, which pretty much throws a projectile just like you would with your left click, but the explosion is much bigger and it does more damage. I guess here it says throws a fiery flask that explodes for 300 damage, in case you're wondering. His E ability is Adhesive, releases intense adhesive, leaving a 45% movement slow field behind for 5 seconds. This is more of a lob, not really. I mean, you can look straight up and try to get the most distance out of it. It's not going to get very far, so just keep that in mind. His F ability is Weightless. This just says it makes you jump higher for 3 seconds, removing all debuffs on use. Right, I said I wasn't going to say that anymore. My bad. But this pretty much gives you sweet looking after effects, like you're going super fast, and when you jump, you jump. So if you're just running on the ground with this active, the Weightless, for 3 seconds, you don't really get anything. But when you jump, you fly. Next we have Ruckus, and I'm not sure if that's the name of the robot or that awkward looking goblin inside of it. But nonetheless, here is Ruckus in all of his glory. His auto attack is a minigun. I mean, it's straight a minigun attached to his arm. Hold left click, you fire. Aim at the target, you hit them. Fires very quickly. His Q ability is Dual Fire, which increases your attack speed by 100%. This pretty much mounts up your other arm with another minigun and allows you to attack twice as fast while Dual Fire is active. His E ability is Emitter. Create an energy shield around yourself, absorbing 600 damage. Just, creates a shield around you. Looks like one of those hologram shields, since everything in here is holograms. His F ability is Hover. You hover for 2.5 seconds. You just literally hover off the ground, maybe 10 feet. I don't know if there's metrics in this game. You just hover slightly off the ground, and it just allows you to escape if you need to. And last but not least, we have the sexy Sky. She's an assassin, kind of plays like a rogue, and wow, because she has stealth. But we'll go over that in a second. Her auto attack is a crossbow, and not what you're thinking, a crossbow, kind of like Cassie's bow would be. But it's a mounted crossbow arm attachment thingy. That's the official name, I swear. No, it's not. But it fires very quickly, and you also have to lead your opponents if they're running. Her Q ability is Time Bomb. Places a bomb that deals 500 damage after a short delay. What's a short delay? I don't know. I think it's about like 3 seconds. You'll see a giant red ring pop around the bomb, letting you know where the actual radius is. Her E ability is Poison Bolts. Bolts deal poison damage for 3 seconds. It makes it so for the next 3 seconds your auto attack also adds additional damage over time. Her F ability is Hidden. Enter stealth for 5 seconds. Pretty simple. You go invisible. While you're going invisible, you can be attacked out of it if someone randomly shoots an explosive or gets a really random lucky shot on you. Side note though, when you are invisible, if an enemy highlights over you unknowingly or knowingly, their crosshair will turn red, knowing there you are. So try to make your movements unpredictable. Go crazy. Dig a hole in the ground. You can't do that. Shoutouts to Dig Dug. Alright, well if you're still here, congratulations for making it through the first half of my Paladins beginner guide. I'd like to thank you, and hopefully I was somewhat informative and made you giggle a few times. Because that's all I want to do. I want to make everyone giggle like a little girl. If you liked my video, feel free to give me the thumbs up, and even subscribe to my channel. I am just starting off, but if you want to see when my new video comes out right away, subscribing will help you with that. Also, it would be awesome. You're awesome. We're all awesome. Woo! So, thanks for watching again, and hopefully I see you around. And hey, if you like me, come check out my stream on twitch.tv/Kamio889. Link in the description. And if you really like me, I'm starting to do a podcast. We've done episode 1. It's called Sunken City Salt. We just talk about the current state of Paladins. It's pretty entertaining. The man I Hold Shift, or Alan, approached me. He is much more awesome than me, so feel free to check him out on Twitch and YouTube. And if you wanted to see our episode 1 podcast, there's a link in the description below. Hopefully I'll see you at the next one, which by the way are on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And if you can't wait for that, always feel free to drop by my stream. I'm streaming anytime I'm on the computer. Schedule will be in the description on the Twitch site. This is Bryce, or better known as Kami, signing out. I don't have a cool outro. I just don't. The end.